Hello Tyrians! I've been having so much fun playing support warriors since the patch that it's inspired me to finally break into the world of video creation. This is my first ever video, so please feel free to share feedback in the comments below. With that out of the way, I'm Slyther, and let's get right into this guide. For those who wish to jump ahead past the theory crafting, you can find chapter codes down below. First, some brief history. Warriors have always had the potential of a support role thanks to banners and the trait Vigorous Shouts adding a healing effect to our shouts, but we've always been missing a crucial piece of the puzzle in the form of a support weapon. Yes, we have Warhorn, but there was nothing to pair it with. The introduction of Staff fixes that, and it's got an amazing skill kit. It's so good, in fact, that warriors now puke out ridiculous levels of raw healing. Warhorn still makes for an excellent secondary support weapon, and the main hand is a flex slot. I chose Mace for its supplemental CC, but Dagger is another option for some limited boon strip. With viable weapons now in hand, let's take a look at warrior specialization options. First up is Spellbreaker, and while it makes for an excellent healer in the World vs. World game mode, it's sadly axed by default in the PvE environment. Players expect their supports to provide quickness or alacrity, and Spellbreaker doesn't provide either. Next up is Bladesworn, and while it is viable, it faces significant disadvantages when compared to Berserker. Bladesworn loses its secondary weapon set, which means no Warhorn and flex slot, resulting in losing the ability to provide swiftness, vigor, a source of barrier, and the CC or boon strip from the flex slot. The Gunsaber, this thing, is also completely useless to you as its only purpose is to provide alacrity, though you can make the best of the situation by picking the trait Lush Forest to reduce the cooldown of your utilities. The third strike for Bladesworn is the loss of the burst skill, which is a major heal, primary regeneration source, and the theory boon from not being able to run the Heat the Soul trait. This in turn reduces your utility options as skills like For Great Justice and Banner of Defense are pretty much locked in to maintain boon uptime. This leaves Berserker as the natural choice. Berserk mode upgrades the already powerful Path to Victory burst skill into Rampart Splitter. Plus, you get access to the trait Heat the Soul, which is your source of quickness. Before I gush about why Staff is so good, this build has so much regeneration that I'd like to make a quick aside and comment about how quirky this boon is, and it's a leftover from ArenaNet reworked the boon system many years ago. Behind the scenes, regeneration operates off a sequential stacking system, and the stacks of regeneration is capped at 5. With an additional secondary cap of 4 from any one source. This has the consequence that not all sources of regeneration are equal. Thus, unlike most other boons that will spill over to the other group once capped, repeat applications of regeneration may simply overwrite the lowest stack within your own group. I've put on Relic of the Herald to max out my concentration for this demonstration. Here I'm only using auto attack and regeneration is capping out at about 20 seconds. The regeneration from Banner of Defense lasts twice as long, and you see here that it's not going over 48 seconds, which is 4 stacks of 12 seconds. When I add in our burst skill, here you see it finally gets close to a minute of uptime as we get that 5th stack of regeneration. It's great your Staff 1 auto attack has regeneration on it, but it's a more significant upkeep tool for Spellbreaker and Bladesworn healers. Berserkers are better off pretending this source of regeneration doesn't exist, as it's much weaker than our other sources, and thus we only auto-attack as a rotation filler. Your Staff 2 skill is where the rest of your might generation comes from and gives you even more fury. It's a heal, plus it generates adrenaline. This is important for your rotation. Your Staff 3 is a targeted charge skill, and it does a lot. Not only is it a heal, but this is where you get the rest of your protection from. It's a source of Aegis, applies weakness to enemies in the area, and is the only skill in the game that gives unblockable attacks to allies. Admittedly, the unblockable attacks are niche in PvE, but it can have impact in PvP scenarios where blocks are commonplace. Your Staff 4 skill is a CC source, applies vulnerability, and is a pull. You'll mostly be hanging onto this to use on CC bars or pull adds into the squad to be cleaved down. Your Staff 5 is another heal. There's lead up time for this one as it's a flip skill that starts as a block, but the block can be ended early and you'll get the heal, resolution, and adrenaline. Lastly is the burst skill itself, your F1. The non-primal Path to Victory version is a strong heal, inflicts weakness on enemies, plus will give you 100% uptime on Quickness, Fury, and Regeneration. The Primal Rampart Splitter version replaces weakness with Immobilize on enemies you hit and has a significant cooldown reduction. You'll want to use your Primal Burst as much as you can. However, in an emergency, you can use the burst outside of Berserk mode if you need that heal. Remember that Soldier's Focus also adds protection, might, and a small heal to your burst skill every 10 seconds. This build uses Discipline 3-1-3, Tactics 2, 3 or 2, 2 or 1, and Berserker 1-2-3. Discipline is a mandatory pick as this build relies on the adrenaline generation to keep your rotation going. It also increases your healing output thanks to Stalwart Focus. And the quick swap allows you to dip into your secondary weapon set and get right back to your staff, which you want to be spending most of your time on. We also gain access to the rare Resolution boon through the trait Double Standards. Condition cleansing can be on the weak side, so Resolution will help reduce damage from conditions you may not be able to get rid of right away. Tactics is the only other support trait line warriors have access to, but it does a lot. You gain a new mechanic called Soldier's Focus that is expended when you use your burst skill, and its primary use is a minor source of might application, some healing, and the trait Soldier's Comfort adds a large source of protection. It has a 10-second cooldown. Because you should be spamming your burst skill as much as you can, this has the unfortunate side effect that you can't control when it's consumed. For this reason, I don't recommend picking the Martial Cadence trait, as not only is the stability unreliable, but you also have to give up Vigorous Shouts. Speaking of Vigorous Shouts, this trait adds a not insignificant heal to your shout abilities. I highly recommend having 2 shouts slotted if you go with Vigorous Shouts. Otherwise, if you decide to run Martial Cadence, I'd also pair it with Empower Allies and drop the second shout, and run 2 banners instead. We get a choice of traits between Shrug It Off and Empower Allies. Picking Empower Allies generates less might than for Great Justice, but should still comfortably give you 100% might coverage, which allows you to substitute for Great Justice with On My Mark. Or, if you slot for Great Justice, you can instead pick Shrug It Off, which gives you a free condition cleanse and heal every 25 seconds when combined with Vigorous Shouts. Berserker is the bread and butter of this build, though the trait choices are pretty locked in. Smash Brawler is mandatory to keep your Berserk going for as long as possible, as the only rage skills you'll be running is Blood Reckoning and Headbutt. Heat the Soul is your quickness source. An Eternal Champion will allow you to manually exit Berserk mode, which is useful for downtime in an encounter to allow you to start rebuilding adrenaline so you can get right back into your rotation as quickly as possible. The next component of our build is utility selection. First, we need to address our adrenaline generation capability. Discipline helps us maintain our rotation once we're already in Berserk mode, but we need that initial boost to get going. The heal skill to the limit will fill your adrenaline, but as a Berserker, we get the alternative choice of Headbutt, which gives us a use for our admittedly weak choice of elites available to warriors. Slotting Headbutt will instead allow us to run Blood Reckoning, another Berserker rage skill that gives us the classic burst into heal into burst combo. When running Vigorous Shouts, I feel the sweet spot is 2 shouts. Shake It Off gives you access to Condition Cleanse and an AoE stun break for your entire group, and is generally locked in for this build. If you're not running Empower Allies, swap in for Great Justice. This leaves us 1 utility slot for a banner. Strength is redundant because we should already be might capped, and same for Discipline as we are already Fury capped. We are left with Defense and Tactics. Defense offers a source of Aegis and Barrier, plus even more regeneration, and Tactics, which provides a source of stability, super speed, resistance, and stun break. I find that super speed uses are limited in most PvE encounters, and if timed right, the Aegis from Banner of Defense will act as pseudo-stability. I default to defense as I find it makes the group quite hardy in those tricky situations. To round out our build, we need to select our stats, runes, sigils, and relic. Healing power and concentration are the go-to for defensive support builds, so Harriers and Givers are the natural choices. Minstrels is a consideration for the PvP-minded folks, but I would avoid it in PvE as we need the concentration to keep protection and might going. I like to run at at least half giver so that I can act as the tank for encounters that require it, and the extra hardiness is useful to stay alive. This has already saved a Temple of Febe pug run where I was the only one that survived a failed triple green mechanic, and we managed to get 9 of the 10 squad members back up to finish the encounter. Runes of the Monk are a popular choice for healers, giving you extra healing power and boon duration. For sigils, I run concentration and transference for even more boon duration and healing, giving 10% to both. Your relic slot is quite flexible for this build. Here are some interesting relic choices. Relic of the Trooper. This will significantly improve your condition cleansing capability, especially useful if you're not running Shrug It Off trait. Relic of Duena makes your regeneration 20% stronger. This is useful in situations where your squad is going to be away from you for significant periods of time. Relic of the Monk is a classic choice for healers and will give you a 10% boost to your healing. Note that this healing does not increase your regeneration, and if you want the stronger regeneration, you will need to go with Duena. Relic of Caracosa adds a small healing effect when you use blast finishers. We do have 2 blast finishers on our Warhorn. This could be useful for some extra little healing while you're on your Warhorn and not able to get back to your staff. However, having Monk equipped will make your shouts stronger, which are usable at any time. Relic of Leadership turns your elite skill into a condition cleanse. Because we run Headbutt with a short 20-second cooldown, this could turn your Headbutt into an emergency cleanse if you're not running Vigorous Shouts and 2 shouts. Otherwise, if you have 2 shouts, Relic of the Trooper will be better. Healers shouldn't be picking people up if it can be avoided, but if you're finding yourself picking people up a lot, Relic of the Mercy will help you pick them up faster and revive them with more health. Relic of the Citadel will double the Defiance break of your Headbutt skill, but do note that Citadel has a 30-second cooldown on it compared to Headbutt's 20-second cooldown, and therefore Citadel will not activate every time you use Headbutt. Relic of the Flock adds a barrier to your healing skill. Because we run Blood Reckoning and it's part of our rotation, this can be a somewhat reliable source of barrier application, which we otherwise have limited access to. This build is not concentration capped, so running Relic of the Herald will push you the rest of the way to 100% boon duration. This is a more PvP-minded relic, but Relic of the Reaper adds chill to our shout abilities. Being as we run 2 shout abilities, this could be a very unexpected source of chill. This is a very niche relic, but I'm including it here to make people aware of its existence, and that is Relic of the Warrior. Through Discipline, we already have access to fast hands, but if you want to try experimenting with builds that do not use the Discipline trait line, which I would not recommend as we need the adrenaline regeneration, or if you just want to get out of the Warhorn even faster than we already do, then you may want to consider Relic of the Warrior. And now that our build is complete, we can talk about the benefits. Number 1 is we get an asinine amount of raw healing, which can be boosted even further with Relic of the Monk. Number 2, we get complete coverage of Quickness, Fury, Might, Regeneration, Protection, and Swiftness. Number 3, we get modest coverage of Vigor and Resolution. Number 4, we have optional access to Resistance, Stability, and Super Speed. Number 5, we have 2 sources of Aegis, assuming you run Banner of Defense. Number 6, we have some access to Barrier, which can be improved even further with Relic of the Flock. Number 7, we have reliable adrenaline generation, making it easy to start and maintain the healing rotation. Number 8, we have AoE stun break via Shake It Off. Number 9, we have modest condition cleansing that can be significantly improved with Relic of the Trooper. Number 10, it is highly mobile through Staff 2 and 3, on top of having 100% swiftness and optional super speed. However, as strong as this build is, there are some downsides. Number 1, damage is mediocre even by healing standards. This may pose a problem for situations like Silent Surf CM, where you will not be able to kill your ad if your DPS rotation is not perfect. And yes, that's even with full Harrier gear. Number 2, your single source of stability has a long cast time to get out, and that's if you even slot Banner of Tactics to begin with. Stability uptime requires taking Martial Cadence, which is mutually exclusive with Vigorous Shouts, thereby reducing the value of your shouts. Number 3, access to Barrier is limited. You have some, some, but this build emphasizes constantly topping people up to max HP rather than preventing that damage. Number 4, we have no resing tools at our disposal if someone does go down. And no, I'm not counting battle standard here as it's a very long cooldown. Plus, we're already overcapped on all of the boons it pulses. If you insist on running battle standard, you will need to swap out Blood Reckoning for To the Limit. Yes, Quick Healer does have a rotation, but no need to panic as it's not complex. Your number 1 priority is to spam your burst as much as you can. This maintains all of your important boons, plus will keep your party at 100% HP the majority of the time. In addition, using your burst will extend your Berserk timer through the Smash Brawler trait, and Berserk mode will last for quite a while if you properly manage your adrenaline generation skills. You have 4 adrenaline generators. Headbutt will get you into Berserk mode, and your Staff 2, Staff 5, and Weapon Swap will help you maintain it. There is no need to save heals for this build. Just about everything you do has a heal attached to it. Plus, many of your heals have boons attached to them, so the skills need to be used for boon upkeep. As your opener, close the distance to your target with Staff 3. Use the Headbutt into Shake It Off combo for adrenaline and stun break yourself, then enter Berserk mode. Your team will already be getting quickness as they arrive behind you. Your standard Berserk mode rotation will look like this. Burst into Staff 2 and filler, into Burst, into Staff 5 and filler, into Burst, into Staff 2 and filler, into Burst. When your Staff 2 and 5 are both on cooldown, you weapon swap and use your Mace Burst, Warhorn 4, and Warhorn 5. Mace 2 is a block if you need one while on this weapon set. Weapon swap back to Staff as soon as you can. If Blood Reckoning is available, use the Burst into Blood Reckoning into Burst combo. It's preferable to use the Blood Reckoning combo on Staff, but you can use it on Mace for extra CC. Staff 3 is used as a filler skill. Staff 4 is generally saved for CC and pulls, but can be used as filler if there are no adds or expected break bars. Auto attack if all other filler skills are on cooldown. All shouts are instant cast and can be used at any time, used for great justice on cooldown. Shake It Off can be saved for stun breaks, cleanses, and emergency heals. Banners are used during filler windows or if their Aegis or stability is required immediately. Headbutt is generally to be saved for CC or to get you back into Berserk mode, but the Headbutt into Shake It Off combo can be used mid-Berserk as a Berserk extender. Manually exit Berserk mode during downtime. And that brings this guide to an end. Now go have fun bonking your friends and healing them with magically infused roars. I'm not a YouTube affiliate or partner, so if you liked the video and would like to support me, I've set up a Patreon over at the on-screen link. It's also linked in the description. I plan to create more videos, but I won't make any promises on how often I'll get them out.